Yeah, a couple of things. Thanks. Just listening to some of the comments. So we have one public notification spot. So we expect people that are mobility challenged and challenged in other ways to come down and actually see the one spot in our community where the public notices are going to be posted. I don't see how that's being inclusive. And then just to administration, I didn't realize the Prince George Citizen public notices have caused us to lose at least 4 weeks time on development permits and such. How does that work? I mean, I don't remember a report coming to council and discussing that. So maybe I missed something. I don't know.
Your Worship, the Local Government Act required at the time for rezoning applications to have 2 consecutive notices placed in a newspaper. Yeah. That was expressed for some time by municipalities as being challenging for different reasons because A, you might not have a newspaper, or B, just the timing of what consecutive means. When the Citizen, for example, was a newspaper that was ran daily in print, that 2 consecutive was very simple. Then it went to weekly, forgive me, I don't know what it is now, but it just created more time for that required notice period to occur. So when the province changed the regulations to allow flexibility with how we publicly notify our residents about land use applications, it helped certainly from the planning and development procedural side of things to make things more efficient and go through that using social media as a quicker way of doing that. Okay, so the way we are now, it's not adding 4 weeks. The current process with our primary means of communication is not adding process time, no. Okay, thank you. And just to clear that up, you know, we're talking about the public processes being inclusive, you know, and there was mention of 400 letters out of 80,000 people responding to a survey. And to me, that's, you know, that's not very successful. And really, you know, if we're going to leave the discretion up to the administration where they spend the money, then I think about what does the city of Prince George think about the Prince George Citizen? When I watched the debate last year and I wasn't here, a question was asked. It was either we don't know how much the Citizen has on their online, and I'll read it, and then, or we don't know how much the Citizen papers are used for Firestarter. So I'm not sure about that. And my concern is if we're just going to leave it up to the discretion of administration, are they just going to go ahead and support the Prince George Citizen like other organizations? I don't know. I mean, I think that's going to be a pretty tough one, given some of the comments that have been made about the Citizens. So, you know, there's a number of issues. I mean, we spend a ton of money on our communication team. Our communication team puts out information that they think the community needs to hear, and they put it out in such a way that's the way they do it. And I think, yeah, leaving them the discretion to do it. I mean, if you think it's important to have administration do it the way they're doing and not support the Prince George Citizen with the public notification processes, because it's about equity, and it's about making sure that as many people can get the information on these legislative requirements and to let them know what's happening about rezonings and such in their neighborhood, then I would suggest you support it. But I don't think it's just simple as saying, you know, we're going to spread it around all over and it's going to be equal. I mean, we had an issue here about, I don't know, a month ago where $100 and something thousand taxpayers' money, we didn't bat an eye to convince people what they should think about the downtown. It come from another fund, but it was taxpayers' money, and here we are debating whether or not we should spend money in our local newspaper and help them. So if I have to get back in, I will, but you know, I think we've gone around. I'd like to see the referral motion, to see administration and come back with some numbers, and if they have a plan on how they're going to spread the money around with local media or come up with grants or anything like that, I think we need to see it. But just to kill it and say, well, we're doing good with what we're doing and let's keep dumping money into Facebook and that, I won't support that either. Thank you.
Thank you. Facebook, it is a very powerful medium to reach a lot of people, no question. But that's precisely what I'm talking about here right now. It's because of Bill C-18 that right now they may stop doing that. So a lot of citizens right now got direct to Prince George news is that they simply just open up a Google, just type Prince George, through your algorithm, they're there. So what C18, Bill C18, what they try to do is they say, look, we are not going to do this directing for you guys, anybody, okay? This is it's black and white. That's what the debate's all about. Right now, all the public elected bodies, federal government, they are debating this. They say they're at odds with Facebook. So we are leaving a Facebook on our bylaw and not having our local newspaper in that bylaw. That local newspaper also has a digital form. To me, this is not acceptable under the circumstance. We're not here tonight to debate, journalism, but indirectly, yes, of course, by putting a publication in the local paper, there will be some benefit. But we're talking about very small amount of money relatively to the city's budget here. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Worship. And I have to say that none of this should have been a debate tonight. This is not what this was about.
Yes.
And I think we need to call the question.
No, I have a motion. Oh, Councillor Bennett. No.
Move the main.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to echo Councillor Scott's point. I think we went into a very great debate about the importance of media, the importance of print media. Again, we came out of a recent election campaign, and I think was one of the few candidates who invested a good portion of my budget into print media. Saying that, that's not the purpose of the debate tonight. No. So I would like to move that Council directs administration to return for Council's consideration a report that includes the financial and operational benefits and implications on amending the City of Prince George Public Notice Bylaw 9329/2022 that includes local newspaper and other opportunities in local media as a required means for publication for City of Prince George public notices in addition to the existing means of public notice page and Facebook page. And I will send a copy of this to Ms. Kellett and to Mr. Babich so they have the wording.
Second.
I hit send. But yeah.
Again, maybe
It's basically the intent of your motion, Your Worship, to send a report to administration. So it's that Council directs administration to return for Council a report including the financial and operational benefits and implications on Council's consideration of an amendment to the City of Prince George Public Notice Bylaw 9329/2022 that includes advertising and local media as a required means of publication for the City of Prince George public notices, in addition to the existing means of public notice page and Facebook page.
No seconder then?
I believe Councillor Scott seconded.
no, hold on a second here. My recommendation based on my report is that basically it just said the local newspaper, which means could be digital form, it could be paper form. It doesn't exclude anything that's already in the existing bylaw. So the amendment was not required because basically this one here is we ask the administration to come back to tell us if we add the word local newspaper in a bylaw, what is the implication? What are you guys afraid of by saying a yes to a simple, what are you afraid of by doing this? This is we're not making any decision. We just ask the administration to say. Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
Call a question. Let's just call it.
Call the question. All in favor?
On which one?
On which one?
The amendment.
Well, it's not an amendment. There was no motion on the floor.
Okay,
So
or-
this would be,
yeah.
So this
this
is
would
the
be the main
motion.
motion.
This is the motion.
No, it would be the motion as
Yeah.
submitted to
Say it
Ms.
again.
Kellett.
Okay, we call the question.
Put it on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Okay.
This is, so Your Worship, we're voting on Mr. Bennett's, Councillor Bennett's motion because your motion hadn't been put on the floor yet.
Correct. So we call the question.
Can I just read one more time? The council directs administration to return for council's report, including the financial and operational benefits and implications on council's consideration of an amendment to the City of Prince George Publication Notice Bylaw 9329-2023 that includes advertising in local media. We are advertising local media. That's local media as a required means of a publication for City of Prince George publication notice, in addition to the existing means of a publication notice page and Facebook. So basically just change the word local newspaper to local media.
So, and providing, and Your Worship, providing, because again, your motion is to refer to staff to prepare a report.
Yes.
This is providing what additional information would be beneficial in that report.
So, point of clarification, this is inclusive of all media, that's my understanding.
Yes.
As opposed to your specific local
Newspaper.
I did not say any local newspaper by name. I just say local newspaper by means of printing the paper. Right?
But this is all inclusive of all media. That, yeah.
So we call the question.
No. Call the question. Councillor Frizzell.
Through Councillor Bennett, just I think there's a minor amendment. I think that's bylaw 9329-2022.
Thank you. I read 2022 and apparently typed 2023.
Okay, and also that direct administration to return for council's consideration.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. With those changes, I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Sampson. You good? Councillor Callasan.
Thank you, Your Worship. 94.1 of the community charter, that was, the conditions set out there are very clear. 94.2 is meant to be an alternative for those communities that don't have a local newspaper. And as Mr. Babich has already clarified, that the legislation says it can be in print or online, that newspaper. So when we're talking newspaper, it doesn't mean only the physical paper newspaper. So the fact that we went with this bylaw around a year ago, I think we were just barely, you could barely make a case for the fact that we were still in compliance with the community charter, because there was no reason for us to go to 94.2, because that was for those communities that didn't have a newspaper. That's right. And so the question for me is, why did we change? I think one of my other councillors had already asked this. Because public notices are, and I was accused earlier of just, blowing out this thing, but it's like, I think the public notices is a way for, by being forced to publish them in a consistent way, which includes land sales, which we know that our staff has sometimes forgotten to do. That's an incredibly important thing. This is a transparency issue. And because when we submit those notices to our newspaper, that's another set of eyes that sees them. It's someone who sees them all come through, and which is very different from us. We're sitting behind the table here, and we get tons of information in every single city report. And so that is why I think that it's incredibly important that we publish this in a local newspaper, like that we publish our public notices, because like I said, I don't, and as far as if we want to get talking about the stats, I mean, our local newspaper, the Prince George Citizen, has, according to Google Analytics, has 1.6 million views monthly average, 1.6 million, from 360,000 unique monthly users. Those are incredible statistics. Our City of Prince George email subscription list has 476, I think something like that, subscribers. I would submit that that is just barely over half of the number of people that we employ. I think, to me, it's vitally important that we revisit, because this decision was made a year ago, and it's when you're making a massive change, it is very correct to review the decision because you have new information, and as we've already discussed, there is much new information. There's the changing media landscape. And I want to highlight again what Councillor Skaken said. We just spent over $100,000 grant that we had received to do something with, and it didn't say exactly, I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was for, but we sent that to an out-of-province communications firm. Over 100,000. We could have used that money for something else. And so I'm not buying the money argument. So anyway, I'm not sure. If we vote for this, does that mean that your motion that we won't vote on it at all yet?
Depends on the outcome.
Yeah.
To administration. Let's just clear this up.
Sorry, pardon?
Or just maybe administration to clear that up, because we're going to have to.
Yeah, through to administration. Would we, if we approve this one, do we then just ignore the mayor's report?
Your Worship, there's a motion on the floor currently that is
Correct.
before you on the screen. If Council approves this motion, then that would be determinative of the recommendation through the mayor's report. The mayor's report would, the outcome of the mayor's report would be this resolution.
Okay. So it wouldn't be seen as being opposed to the mayor's report, just a slightly different wording?
It's a different resolution than a different recommendation than what was in the mayor's report. The resolution before you, or the motion before you, would be for administration to return with a report to council that includes the financial and operational benefits and implications on council's consideration of an amendment to the City of Prince George bylaw. So our interpretation of that is not necessarily to return an amendment to the bylaw, but a report on what the implications on a future amendment to the bylaw would be.
May I have the indulgence just to add that Councillor Bennett's comment regarding the consideration, the operational benefit and implication, but I would like to leave the local newspaper in there based on what's the Councillor Klassen just based on the statistic. It will be absolutely not correct if we don't use the word local newspaper in this particular case. But I do agree that we are only asked the administration to come back with a report regarding the implication of changing this bylaw by one wording, 2 words. And yes, of course, we got to talk about the operation benefit, the implications. But I would like to, I don't submit that many mayor's reports to don't even get on the floor. Is that? I can amend it based on that, Councillor Bennett's wording.
My understanding is we'd have to vote on this, and the only way you could get it back would be to have this defeated to get yours back on the floor, is my understanding through administration, what they said, Your Worship. So
I see. Okay.
The only hope would be to turn it down, but chances of that are slim to none. But it's, we'll see what happens. So that's how I see it, and that's what Mr. Babbage said.
Okay.
Alternative, Your Worship, if you wish to make an amended motion, you could amend this motion.
I just basically amend the motion based on take the word local media for this particular report. I would like to have a local newspaper, and administration might come back and say we have to including different media. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But we spend the whole night talking about what mayor's report, and then you want to change the whole thing, and we're not don't even going to vote on? I got a problem with that.
Your Worship, local media, the citizen would be included in this.
I understand.
So,
I understand, but our existing bylaw already including all of it. This particular ones put the onus of the administration have to put the notices in the local newspaper. Let's be very clear. This is the different debate we're having here. That is local media. It's already in the bylaw. Facebook's already in the bylaw. And because other municipalities, they have no local newspaper. So therefore, they use this so they'll meet the minimum requirement. We are here based on our local newspaper is doing such a great job, then we need to put our public notice in their paper. That is, yeah, what's the benefit, what's the implication? I would like to hear from the administration. Yeah, we probably need to.
Well, I'll make an amendment to include the word local newspaper. If I get a seconder, we can debate it all night, but I put that out there.
No.
Okay?
Second it?
And I don't know if you want debate on that, Your Worship, we could go around, but that's on the floor, so we at least give you the option to keep the term local newspaper alive.
Thank you.
And one more question to administration. When a point is order is raised, now is the person that made the point of order supposed to be clear on what exactly their point of order is and recorded in the minutes to administration?
Your Worship, it's not recorded in the minutes, but if clarity is required from the chair, then the member that raised the point of order should explain what the point of order concern is.
Okay, so going forward, and I know Mayor Hughes was passionate about his comments. I mean, maybe some took offense to it. I didn't. But if we're going to raise a point of order, then we need to be clear on what that point of order is and what you're communicating with that point of order. We just can't throw it out and say point of order and then move on. So all I'm saying is we need to be a little bit more clear when we put that out, why we raise it and what we want to see happen with it. Thank you. I'll call the question on the amendment. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Sampson?
Thanks, Your Worship. I mean, I think there was different interpretation. My understanding of what Mr. Babish said about the point of order, only if the chair seeks clarification, but that's okay. My question to you, Your Worship, is I need clarity on your intent here. You want, your goal with your report is to get to go back to the point where we are publishing our public notices in the Citizen. Is that, am I misunderstanding that?
Part of it, yes, but this is not eliminating us from publishing in all the existing media that we have.
You're saying we could also then publish in other media, but the intent is to publish our public notices in the Citizen and then potentially elsewhere as well.
Yeah. Of course.
That's what you want.
Yes. And what is the implication? Because all the other media is already included in the existing bylaw. This will
specify the Citizen.
No, never say specific. I just say local newspaper. So if tomorrow CKBG would like to start printing a paper, yeah, we got to put in the CKBG too.
Sure, but right now, as the only print newspaper, that would specify we do it there, and then we can.
That might be other.
But then we can also do it elsewhere.
Of course, of course.
For me, I think my concern with that is then we're sole sourcing this opportunity, and we're not putting in an RFP to see all local media giving us a chance to tell us how they communicate with the residents. And so if we're going to go down this path, we need to look at what the best option is for disseminating the information to the community in a time where the media landscape and information consumption has changed. And just simply saying we should go to the Citizen doesn't work for me. We need to look at an RFP process or something. I mean, why don't we say, hey, every local media, if you also care about, this transparency and openness that my colleagues have been talking about, why don't we say, put a tab on your website that automatically links and put a QR code on your paper and put a running bar on your TV station that says, go to the City of Prince George website for all public notices, or to our website where they clicks through, or to the public bulletin board in the City Hall. Are we getting buy-in from them as well? So I don't know. I think there's a million ways you can look at it, but specifying one doesn't work for me. Clarity on the amendment is we swapped local media for local newspaper. Is that what I'm understanding the amendment is?
That's right.
Thanks.
I'll call the question, Your Worship, if I may. Just get it on the floor.
Seconder?
Yep.
Councillor Claassen, you want to speak?
Yes, so the amendment is on the floor. So
okay.
do we vote on the amendment?
We're voting on the amendment. So
On the amendment to replace local media to
Yep,
local newspaper
correct, yeah.
in Councillor Bennett's motion.
Yeah.
yeah, and so I call the question on that.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion defeated.
Main motion is amended, I think, or did we pass it?
No, the main motion is still on the floor.
Okay.
I'm in the queue.
Councillor Claassen?
So everybody's in favor of transparency, everybody's in favor of the local media, everybody's in favor of journalism. But I think we've witnessed our let them eat cake moment.
Councillor Bennett?
I guess I would ask for if Councillor Claassen can please elaborate on her point. I think, again, like Councillor Klassen's comments this evening were around the great online the great online presence that the citizen has on their website. Unless out of the generosity of the business, they're going to post public notices as editorial. Advertising does not necessarily show up on the website that is purchased in print. So in order to maximize the online, this is the intent of the motion here, is to look at all other options that are available. But I guess I'm just asking Councillor Claassen can please elaborate on her comment there, because I must be missing something.
Okay, Councillor Sampson?
Gladly, because journalism costs money. If we say we support journalism, if we support transparency that is brought by publishing our public notices, we have to be willing to pay for it. And we can't say that we support, it's like saying that, oh yeah, journalism is great, the media is great, freedom of the press is great, free speech is great, but we don't want to put any effort behind it and just say, well, they can still do all their journalism thing, but we don't want to help support it by being more transparent by publishing our notices, which helps to support journalism. That's what I mean.
Call the question, your discretion, Your Worship.
Yeah. No, you are in the queue.
Just, I'd ask for the clarification of Councillor Claassen, and I appreciate her response. I guess my concern is the interpretation there that by passing this motion, we are not spending money. Because at this point, at nowhere here do we say that we're restricting the money that we're feeding to local media. We're just saying that may be distributed through different local media. And again, so I guess that would be just, and again, I don't want to get into a back and forth with Councillor Claassen. We have spent we have a large amount of our agenda left this evening. But again, that would just be my follow-up to that would be, I don't think anywhere in this motion are we saying that we are not planning to invest in local media. I think on the opposite, if this was to pass and this report comes back, if that recommendation was to pass, I feel we'd actually be investing more into local media than we are currently doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson?
Thanks, Your Worship. I had similar points to Councillor Bennett on the whole online presence versus print in the newspaper versus, but really what I want to get down to is this is not about whether or not we support local journalism. This has nothing to do with that. This is how we get information out to the residents about public notices, about things like rezonings and whatnot. We could say we're going to give any media in town $500,000 today. That also doesn't mean we support local journalism. That means we bought the local journalism. So, like, we need to do this in a thoughtful way. If we want to say we want to support local journalism, then bring back a motion, let's create a grant system, and let's offer out money for local journalism. But doing it under the guise of getting information into the hands of the public on public notices, that's wrong. So trying to tell the public that we're not transparent because we won't buy ads in the Citizen is wrong. We need to get the information in their hands the best way possible. If it's through the Citizen, then so be it. If it's through Facebook or anything else, so be it. But saying that we don't support local journalism simply because we're not going to buy ads in their paper is absolutely insane. Saying that we're not transparent because we're not going to buy ads in their paper is insane. This This is a ridiculous debate at this point. We're not talking about that. We are transparent. This information is public. It's not like, hey, because we didn't buy an ad, the public can't see this information. No, the information is literally on our website. We post on our bulletin board. If you want to get into a debate about the accessibility of that information, then I'm all for it. But saying that we're not transparent because of that is absolutely doing a disservice to the residents, I think. That's blatant lying at that point. So
you want to talk about a point of order? Let's call a question and get this over with. I call a question.
You can't just cut me off. Call the point of order if you want.
Chair.
Yeah, I'll finish up. My point is, we need to be clear on what we're talking about, and it's the best way to get public notice information to the hands of the residents. And if we want to talk about the accessibility of that information, I'm all for it. But toting things like Bill C-18, which has nothing to do with this, doesn't jive with me. We need to talk about the accessibility and how people consume information in our community. That's what the debate's about. Thanks.
So what's the motion on the floor here right now? Original?
Yeah.
May I say one word? The motion on the floor right now, it's really has been no change whatsoever regarding the bylaw and potential change because local media is already there. The reason is that we want the newspaper today, that the digital form as well as the print form, based on the statistic that they have reached the number of citizens. We want to make sure all publications there. And behind that local newspaper, we have a team of journalists. They will look at this, all the information on behalf of all the citizens as well, because they're local, they understand the issues. That is what it is I'm talking about here. This is the benefit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Your Worship, I have to ask something. I've never had anybody say that I've been blatantly lying in council because that's the message that we were talking. That was our message. And if Councillor Sampson wants to talk about the issue of not sole sourcing, then that should apply to all your philosophies, Councillor Sampson. That's it.
Your Worship, I'm not going to engage in petty debates. I never said your name, Councillor Skaken. And if you want to throw crap like that out there, then we're not going to do it in a public setting and diminish the quality of this debate and take away from this council. Like, come on, grow up. Call the question.
Call the question. All in favor? Oppose?
Take an intermission.
Take an intermission.
Excuse me, could I please have the names of those opposed
This
to the motion on the screen?
post this motion, right?
Who wants to know the names?
For the record, if they could be.
I believe it is defeated.
Defeated.
For people to hold their hands up, please, so I can note that for the minutes.
Yeah.
Skaken, you, Sampson, Ramsey, Classic.
Thank you.
Move for a 5-minute recess.
Thank you. Thank you very much for democracy is a messy business, and democracy does not exist without a good, healthy, local media. Thank you for coming. Let's take 5 minutes.